Wake that ass up
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ Envy, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got some special guests in the building this morning on Zoom.
Yes, indeed.
We have Bashir Salahuddin. Did I say that right?
What?
Salahuddin.
He mumbled it.
Salahuddin. I mumbled it like a mother.
We have Bashir.
What did Dr. Bolton say that time? Adim Nazim.
It's like when you don't know the lyrics.
Right.
My mama said, yes. And Diallo Riddle. Welcome, guys.
What's up, man?
I'm not going to lie.
Man.
I was looking forward to that.
Here.
I was just waiting. I was looking forward to
He was waiting for that one. Oh, man. Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Thanks for having us, man. Good morning. Good morning.
Yes,
How you guys quarantining now, man?
Hey, man, you know, it's interesting. Like, you know, I was just listening to you guys, and I'm really hoping that, you know, the live events come back. I'm hoping that getting out the house becomes a thing again. You know, you learn a lot about yourself, quarantining. You learn a lot about the people you live with. You learn about patience, limits. Yeah, it's a real educational.
When's the last time you've been in the house with your wife uninterrupted like this?
When is the last time before this? Well, we just had a baby, so like about 3 or 4 months before the kid was born, we stopped working, and you know we would just go on walks every day, and you know just trying to encourage the child to let's get this going. And it's interesting because we did that, and then as soon as the baby came a couple months later, it was time for COVID, so we're doing it again.
What about you, Diallo?
You know, I found out that I can't lose weight in COVID. That's what I've learned. Like, I ordered a Peloton bike like 3 months ago. It hadn't arrived. You know, I was like,
wow.
You know, by the time that the Shermans Showcase special comes out, I'm gonna be ripped. And I've gone in the opposite direction. But you know, I got 3 kids. You know, and I've been married for a long time, so I'm just surprised that we're still here. Honestly, we have not left the house really for anything since March. You know, Bashir and I work with this guy, Michael Blyden, who was like, yo, this COVID thing is real. And I was the main one saying, I think y'all are exaggerating and like fearful. And then of course, you know, we were like 2 weeks early on the whole like working from home thing. So it's been weird. I feel like we've grown closer, and yet we're very much ready just to see people. I don't miss going to restaurants. I don't really miss a lot of stuff, but I do miss people. That's what I miss the most.
LA's back open though, right? Didn't y'all start TV production on the 12th or film production or something like that? I read.
Yes, it's being figured out. They're trying to figure out like the number of people who could be on set. They're trying to figure out. I think a lot of writers are going to be doing some revising the scripts and you know trying to figure out how to make them scenes a little bit smaller, get a few less bodies involved. But there hasn't really been that large movement yet where everybody's like, all right, you know, everybody's back to work, everybody's back to on set shooting stuff. So I think that's still around the corner.
I'll be honest, I don't like what I see on people's Instagrams. Like I see people in restaurants, they don't seem very separated, they don't have on masks. Like I'm not going back out into that. Like it was only 2 or 3 days ago that we had like 3,600 new cases in Los Angeles. Like this is a city, we didn't have it bad like New York had it earlier this year. And I think people would just think, oh, well, it's not in Los Angeles. And it is, and it's spiking. And you know, they take a certain amount of pride and be like, well, I'm not going to be scared. I'm going to get out here and do my thing. And I'm like, this is a mess. So,
well, you know, the problem with the restaurants is you can't wear a mask while eating. So they want you to wear a mask coming into the restaurant, but then once you sit down, you can take it off. You know what I mean? Which is
be talking and spitting and coughing. Yeah, like I just, you know, I mean, like right now, like our hospitals are something like 75% capacity. So, you know, I want to see how it shakes out the next couple of weeks. Plus the protests, which, you know, people need to be out there protesting. I mean, like if you're gonna risk your life, I mean, our lives are already at risk. So, you know, you got to get out there and do your thing. But like, you know, I do worry about people, you know, I worry about it spreading because of the protests. Like, it's just, like I said, it's really messy right now.
Black people will always be more afraid of the cops than coronavirus. Okay, coronavirus is new. Cops been killing us for years. We ain't found a kill for that shit yet. Okay.
Exactly.
That's funny, man. I was just thinking, it's so crazy. Like Richard Pryor's stand-up, 1972, 1974, talking about the same subject matter. So it's like, you think about that, that's like 50 years, actually. I know in my brain, the 70s is only 20 years ago because I'm perpetually like, the 70s, it's like 20 years ago. But that's like 50 years ago. And so it's like the subject matter hasn't changed. Perhaps this is different. Perhaps we're in a moment now where, a corner will be turned and some new things will happen.
Let's hope so, because we see policies getting passed and policies being introduced, bills getting passed. So we do have to hope there's some permanent changes. Like I was talking about this earlier in San Francisco for non-criminal calls. Now they're going to be sending mental health experts and people that can actually de-escalate the situation.
Individuals. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was saying trained, unarmed individuals going into a lot. That everybody needs to read that Confessions of a Bastard Cop. That thing blew my mind. Like, I don't know if everybody here has read it, but on Medium, this former California police officer really just spilled the beans, like almost like on some like a Mason, giving all the Mason secrets out. Like that's the level of which, and like after reading this article, I was just like, yeah, why do we send an armed person in to break up a domestic dispute or deal with someone with a mental illness or to try and tackle homelessness? Like you literally have somebody with a gun and qualified immunity handling situations that they don't need to be handling. And I'm not even going to state it as clearly and as well as he did. Confessions of a Bastard Cop. It's on, you can just Google that. It's on Medium. It changed it because we all know that it's bad, right? We all know that it's bad, but like after this, I'm like, yes, you do have to defund the police. So just read it. I mean, it's coming from the horse's mouth, and it just tells you that, like you said, like you need people who are trained in these fields to deal with these various social problems, not just a catch-all dude with a gun who's coming to your house to try and figure this stuff out. This is ridiculous.
And cops don't care about that kind of stuff. Like, I did a wellness check on somebody in LA back in February. They didn't even want to go. Like they were like, we're not going because the person isn't in any imminent danger and they haven't harmed themselves or, harm somebody. And I'm like, are you just gonna wait until that happens? And it did happen. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, they don't even care. We needed that type of mental health care professional to be able to call back in February. Well, I did personally. That was a personal story.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Now, how have you guys been handling things at home? I see you're in Shermans Showcase space right now.
I'm in my garage.
In your garage.
He's always advertising. He's always writing for the show. I love it.
I see. That's good.
Appreciate
and
that.
I know
if that sign wasn't there, you guys would be like, why is he in that sad garage? That's like
what's going on?
My garage.
Oh, even with the sign, it's still...
Now, obviously, you guys have an allegiance to John Legend, and John Legend and Alicia Keys are doing a versus on Juneteenth.
Yeah, my wife just told me last night. It's dope.
I just found out about it. I was literally in the green room here today, and I was like, I talk to John several times a week. I did not know this, so this is all brand new information.
He be keeping
fill
stuff
me in.
But I knew.
I
know, right? You got secrets.
Why do y'all have an allegiance with John Legend? He's production company.
We're working with him.
Show?
He's
okay.
Actually, our show Shermans Showcase. He's one of the executive producers. And
he's the executive producer
now on the new
executive producer.
Wow.
And we have a new thing coming out that they haven't announced yet. That's coming up pretty soon. But I think the other thing about John that's so dope is like, Diallo and I worked with Jimmy Fallon for years, and we met every different type of celebrity because they would always come and want to do sketches. And sometimes they would be amazing and dope, and you'd meet people who like totally got it, and you'd be like, "Oh man, this guy might as well be a comedy actor." And then other times you would be like, "All right, we got a lot more work to do, got a lot of editing to do." I think John is one of those people who gets the joke, and it's something that once you find it, especially with somebody of his caliber, it's incredibly nice to be able to talk to him about comedy and not have to like explain anything. He always gets it. He always knows what we need him to do. He's pitching jokes back to us. So I was like, all right, cool. This guy definitely has like a little simpatico with us. Ivy League cat, shout out. I know you guys are all Ivy League too, so you know how it is.
No.
You stick together.
No. I sold crack. Hey, are you going to be there to console John Legend when he gets his ass busted by Alicia Keys in the versus battle?
Gracious.
That's why we fight the fight, sir. That's why we had a fight. That's why we had a games. We got to see what happens. Looking forward to a very spirited battle. That's what we do. I will. I don't know if it's gonna be as good as what's the one that was it Beanie Man and Bounty Killer?
Bounty Killer.
Oh my God, that one was the most amazing.
Yeah. That was amazing. They weren't doing no social distancing. I was like, this is the concert. These cats are going here.
I was doing curbs. Oh, by the way, most epic versus all time. They had the cop show up.
And that Beanie Man was like, "We're gonna do this in front of these people." 500,000 people watching.
Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy.
Yeah.
Oh, that was great.
I was like, well, we're not gonna top that one. That's number one.
Mhm.
That's the only thing I miss from COVID are like those early verses when like people couldn't, when Teddy had issues. I already missed those days. I already feels like 100 years ago, but.
Mm-hmm. Have people tried to make real songs out of the songs from Sherman's Showcase yet? Like,
absolutely.
Listen, you all have
one. Which one?
I'm gonna say they sent us like a screener, and there's this one, "Drop It Low for Jesus." That is my song right there. I was like, that is a real song.
Yeah. Fonte Coleman, shout out little brother. Fonte hooked that one up.
Okay.
And then off of a tune that my sister Zuri, who performs the song, it's crazy. That song has a really interesting origin because she actually brought it to Diallo for Sherman Showcase and he loved it and it ended up being really dope. But like my grandmother was a very, very religious woman. Like televangelism on, I don't know if y'all know people like that, but like 24 hours a day, her TV is on the televangelism channel. Nothing else happens on that television. So that's all she would watch. She was very, washed in the blood of the lamb. But she also had a great sense of humor. And so my two sisters would always make up songs and make her laugh that were really inappropriate. And one of them was Drop It Low for Jesus. And she used to just be dying laughing about that one. So that's when we knew it was like, all right, she's super religious and she thinks it's really funny. So it was cool to kind of get that out to the people. And also to that point, Diallo, I think we have some remixes. Didn't people remix some of the other songs on the first season of Sherman's?
Yeah, so we always knew, like, we got John Legend on as an executive producer early on, and at that point, like, he was just like, we got to make sure the songs are great. But Bashir and I always wanted the music on Sherman's to have a life of its own. Like, we didn't want to make just, like, silly songs. Like, we wanted songs that, like, actual DJs would be like, yo, you got to mix in the Drop It Low for Jesus, and you got to whoop in the, Fonte did another song called Whoop Your Kids that we came up with, which is all about like, disciplining your kids. It's a dance hall track. And we made sure that those songs were really good so that people would want to, deal with this on a musical level. So we signed with Mad Decent, which is Diplo's label. And, they sent us all these remixes and some of them are really dope. And so there's like one for Drop It Low for Jesus. Bashir channels his best on this song called Running. And these cats out of the UK were like, yo, we want to remix Running into this, like, deep house mix. And so, like, we got a house song called Running that's coming out on the soundtrack. So, like, everything that we wanted to accomplish with this show, because Sherman's was always going to be about, like, the music, the comedy. And, people have asked, like, what is it like to write comedy at a time like this? Like, is it even okay to be funny? Is it even okay to be silly? I'll say that Bashir and I we came from these big black families, like, trials and tribulations are nothing new for our people. Our process has not changed. We still write about what we think is funny, we still speak to our truth. And when I look at things like the Sherman Showcase special that we got coming up, I'm like, yo, this is exactly, like, people are like, did y'all see this coming? Because y'all got jokes about kente cloth. I'm like, kente cloth didn't pop up last week on Nancy Pelosi for no reason. Like, it's been around for a long, long time. And like, we grew up in these socially conscious families where the fathers would always be like, hey, this is your background, this is your heritage. And so, what we try and do, comedy has not changed.
Yeah, man, we grew up listening to long speeches, lots of talking, lots of education. Just my father used to have us out there every Saturday morning cleaning up. I'm from the South Side of Chicago. We used to have to go clean up neighborhoods and pick up garbage and stuff like that. So, I used to hate it. It was terrible. But I think I learned something from it. I think I became a slightly more conscious person, I hope. But, it definitely all started from like what was happening at the house.
When you look at a show like Sherman Showcase, like y'all strategically, educate on black cultures, like the medicine and the candy approach. So nowadays, with all of these white people trying to learn about blackness and loving blackness so much, are you more concerned with educating other black people or allies of other races?
I'm more concerned with contracts, my brother. You know what I'm saying? If you a black person in entertainment, it's a good time to get a contract.
That's a fact.
You can get that reparations deal right now.
No, but I read some. My mother-in-law was telling me that she does, or somebody in her field, they do anti-racism work. This one woman made like $100,000 in 10 minutes of work by doing like this anti-racism workshop with like a bunch of people at one time. And so, look, I'm joking, obviously. It's not about a financial come up. But I do think there's definitely people who are like, finding ways to like, what? People are reaching out, asking questions of like, how do I change? How do I be different? I'm sure, have you guys gotten a bunch of messages from white friends like in the past 2 weeks being like, hey,
yes,
do I need to like,
absolutely.
I feel so unqualified to answer these questions. I know Diallo had a very different answer than I did when they was calling you, right?
Well, what are they saying? What did they ask?
I just sent him my Venmo code. I just sent him my Venmo code.
He's like,
I take Cash App. He's like, I take Cash App too.
Well, I've definitely had friends. Yeah.
I was gonna say, what are they asking when they hitting you, when they texting you? What are they saying?
I've definitely gotten texts like, let me know if you think there's anything that I could do differently, or do you have any advice for things that I could do differently, or, I've never thought about this before. I'm like, never thought about this before? I never thought about this before, and now that I think about it, I want you to know. And then a lot of like, also like, I want you to know how important you are as a friend, this kind of thing. And I'm like, all right, this is definitely something I didn't see coming. And I don't necessarily always feel qualified to answer those questions because I'm still wrestling with all this stuff myself, and I don't want to be somebody who's just like throwing advice at people, but it's certainly like an unexpected thing. This is
a lot of white people checking in right now. The white people check-in is happening heavy, and they're also asking things like, "Well, I want to do my part. What do you recommend? Where should I?" People are asking also what organizations should they donate money to, or they want to like put together fundraisers. And I'm like, look, I can't tell you to put together a fundraiser. Why don't you support something that's already happening?
There you go.
Yeah,
or
you'd asked earlier about. You'd asked earlier.
I'll send your Cash App.
Do we feel like
there it is?
Yeah, exactly. But you'd asked earlier about, do we ever feel like we have to educate the allies, or do we? I think Bashir and I have always taken the idea that like the less explaining you do, the more funny it'll be. So we'll definitely throw in a joke that we think only 5% of the audience will get, but we feel like, maybe 10 years from now, people will come around to getting what we were really trying to get at there. Like we really, and I think to our credit, because I mean, like Shermans Showcase has been on IFC and AMC. These are not the places to necessarily go and get a huge paycheck. So in return for not getting, that Kenya Barris, he will go out of our way.
I know, man. That garage should be way
right
fancier.
now. That's what I'm doing. I'm in a garage. Okay, I mean, like, so that's for real.
That's the trade-off.
Jokes that we think will make us laugh. That's the trade-off, and I have no problem with that trade-off. For now.
It's interesting even with the white people conversation though, because it's like that's how I know Black Americans would have been terrible slave owners. Because when a white person says "use me," I don't know what to do. I don't even know where to begin.
It's not in our blood, right?
It's not in our blood. That's what they say. Use me. Use me if you need me. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what to do with you. What am I supposed to do with you?
We should be like, hey, get out here and do some of this paperwork. A list of tasks immediately ready. That's the new cotton.
Just sitting in front of a
paperwork you got to fill out.
Now for Sherman Showcase, it's also Black History Month Spectacular, but it's not Black History.
That's right.
Oh, okay.
No,
now, let me say this
in
real
June.
quick.
Oh, go ahead.
We thought. I just want to say real quick. We thought that was going to be. First off, we made the thing think it was going to air in February.
Okay.
We thought it was going to air in February. At some point, the network was like, "Oh, we got a full slate, but what about the summer?" We're like, "Okay, but if we do this, we have to call it Sherman's Black History Month Spectacular in June," which we thought was hilarious, and we were like, "There are going to be all these funny reasons why it's going to happen in June," and then the world broke out, and circumstances happened, and we were like, "This is the best time. This is a better time than ever, honestly, for a Black History Month Spectacular." Now, I'm not sure this is something you can necessarily show in schools. We got parts about the Harlem Renaissance and, Mary McLeod Bethune and all the things that as Black children, you just associate with Black History Month. There's certain names you only hear once a year, and that's always during Black History. It's like, oh,
Carter G. Woodson.
Yeah, exactly. But it kind of worked out. I mean, I don't want to say it worked out perfectly, but I feel like that was the time for a Black History Month Spectacular.
Is it airing on Friday?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's on Friday. It's on Friday.
Juneteenth.
Juneteenth.
Bro, I couldn't anticipate any of this. Yeah, and by the way, I'm not sure anybody at the network knew it was Juneteenth. I think they just saw a free Friday in June. But we were like, oh, it's Juneteenth. Okay, we'll take that. That's ours now. You know, Charlie
Yeah,
Brown
I mean,
owns Christmas. We got Juneteenth.
I hope it becomes a national holiday because, you know, I'm embarrassed to admit, you know, when I was growing up on the South Side, I did not know what Juneteenth was. Nobody talked about it. They do not teach it in public high schools. They did not teach it in college. I had to meet some black kids from Texas, and they were like, "You don't know about Juneteenth, et cetera, et cetera."
Right.
And I never even heard of that. And now I'm like, it does need to be. It's odd that there's no emancipation holiday. You know, I guess if is that folded into Black History Month, but it feels like it should be its own. You know, with the celebration, we deserve another celebration. I think we deserve a lot.
We should have off, right, guys?
I think so.
I'm gonna run it up the chain.
We need something because, you know, quickly after.
Yeah, it does.
To be honest, like people have had a lot of time off. We need Juneteenth, and it should be like 4th of July. So if it falls on a Wednesday, you just got a 5-day weekend. Yeah, man. You know, just to be a thing. But by the way, nice. My family, we always knew about Juneteenth because you know, Black History was so like Carter G. Woodson is the father of Black History Month, and he's a distant relative to the Riddle clan. So my father and his grandfather were always like, you guys have to know every single date on the calendar. They had like, you know, Kwanzaa was just the beginning. We had dates all through the year that were Black holidays.
MLK is the only Black holiday we get off.
Related to somebody.
Is it what?
True.
Yeah. How are you related to Carter G. Woodson?
I'm saying he's always claiming to be related to somebody special. He's a distant relative to. Hey, just go.
And you know,
the Riddle family is very big. Riddle family is like.
You know, it is Black Music Month, though.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's Black Music Month too. So it's look, man, we couldn't have asked. You know, again, like I'm happy that we're doing it now. I do feel like there's a little bit of hope and a little bit of perspective gained out there. So, you know, we've been disappointed in the past, but right now it does feel like a moment. Maybe we'll look back 2 years from now and be like, damn, we should have asked for more. Like Charlamagne said, we should have asked for more in 2020.
That reparations deal.
You know, yeah.
How are you related to Carter G. Woodson though?
Eliza Riddle was his mom, and Eliza Riddle Woodson. So, you know, I give it up for Ancestry because Ancestry, I feel like a lot of us can actually, if we know like who our great grandfathers and great grandmothers were, we can go back about to like 1870, 60. After 1860, it becomes a lot of really depressing, like, you know, unknown female slave. And then that's the end of the track. And I'm like jealous of like white people because they can just go all the way back to the 16 and the 1500s and all that's lost on us. You know, that's the honest truth.
The thing is, but Diallo, I can't even have this conversation with you because you started it off by saying what do you say? Eliza Riddle was her mom.
Eliza Riddle.
We know who Eliza Riddle is. I don't know who that is.
It's not hard. I mean, this is not an ad for Ancestry, but like literally just talk to the oldest person in your family and you can actually piece together quite a bit. But I will say before Ancestry even came along, in our family, we had like a family tree going back to the Desjardins and the LeBlancs and the so there's one side of my family that's all Creole and they came up through there. And then there's another side that's all preachers in Ohio. I always joke to John because his family's like deep in Ohio. And like, I'm like, we're probably distant relatives because, you know, we all came off of like a couple of places in like Cumberland, Virginia and, you know, like, you know, extremely rural Pennsylvania. Like that's our people's culture. And I feel like there's so many rich stories back there that I wish we had been sharing, but at least now with the internet, people can share the family stories. You know, I'll keep this very short, but like there's a really interesting story. So I know about the white Riddles, like the Riddle family that, you know, I'm a part of came off of a plantation in rural Virginia in the 1840s. And the main guy, his name was Watt Riddle. It's short for Watkins Riddle. And his grandfather was actually murdered by one of his slaves. He caught an axe to the back. And I was like, this slave named Peter, whoever he was, that man's grandfather did something so terrible that this slave was like, I don't care. Like, I'm killing this dude right now with witnesses. And I know that I'm going to be, and of course he was killed. He was quartered as punishment. But like, I always think to myself, like, what did that man do that was so terrible that this guy was like, I'm essentially going to commit suicide and kill you because that's what I'm feeling right now. Like, there's so many great stories in history. if I could do anything, it would be that more people would have access to more of those stories. And I didn't know I was going to get all serious like this, but you know, it's
yes, you did.
Times that we're in, you know.
It's not. It's just a conversation. You know, I was going to ask y'all. You know, as
Casual.
two creatives, are you forced to be creative during this quarantine? Because everybody's like, oh, you got to come out with a book. You got to come out with a hit TV show. You got to come out with a movie. Are you forced to be creative? Or do you?
I feel guilty about it. I mean, I think Diallo nailed it. Like, he talked about getting a Peloton. I built a whole gym in my garage that I've used it twice. I mean, I literally put the whole thing together, and now it's just like this depressing monument to laziness. Because every time I walk past, I'm like, man, you really ain't shit. You know, you're supposed to be in there working out. And I think the reason I bring that up is because I think it's the same thing with creativity. I literally was like, oh man, I kind of secretly always wanted to write a book. I have a couple screenplay ideas I've never gotten around to because I'm too busy. I'm like, this is the time to really do that. To our credit, we've actually been busy with our regular jobs. A lot of stuff has been happening with the TV shows and stuff we work on. But I do feel like, and I don't know if y'all felt this, but I just have not had the level of productivity that I expected being in quarantine. Right. And I don't know if it's just, I'm just like sad because I can't get out, but you know, it just I haven't been able to be like, all right, let me just get these 275 pages knocked out, you know, for this little small novel. By the way, I figure 275 is a good number for the first book. You know, you don't want to overdo it. You want to get something kind of light going on. I just haven't had that burst of pride. I think for some reason it's like being out in the world and having everybody else engaged in what they're doing and in their passions and being part of that energy does have an effect. And I think that is missing right now.
Right.
Creatively, at least.
Well, I've been watching a lot of TV. So this is a good time for Shermans Showcase.
Yeah.
Yes, he said, what about you, Diallo? I don't know, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I you know, I have 3 children, man. So for me, every day,
enough said.
I try to keep them away from the microphone if I got to do a Zoom. You know, I feel like the second the
that's
Zoom
why you're in the
starts
garage.
up,
That's good.
Cartwheels in the background. Yeah, I'm high now. Sometimes I actually close the garage door, and they'll be like, "Dad left." But you know,
the garage is nice. I like the exposed brick, and it's bigger than a lot of New York City apartments.
I grew up in Atlanta. It was really, I feel lucky that I was able to find brick in LA because brick in LA is hard to come across. So, you know, if y'all can see over there, I got some green and I got some brick. So I'm good. I'm good. Shout out to Atlanta. I do want to say real quick that, and this is the shameless plug part. I think people would really enjoy Sherman Showcase, Black History Month.
Yeah, I agree.
It's an hour long. All the other episodes are half an hour. So we went into this, we were like, how are we going to do an hour long episode of the showcase? And really what ended up happening was, you know, we ended up with too much material. We actually went to the network and asked them, hey, can we go on and get like, you know, a full hour and a half? And they were like, no. But at this point, like, I feel like we only left in like the best stuff. And we have everybody from Terrence J, who had quite a week.
Never heard of him.
Yes, he did.
Yo, you talk about somebody that salute to Lil Rel. Did that not backfire on Terrence J?
It sure did.
The second it happened, I was like, because, you know, I obviously know Marlon too. I'm like, y'all are friends. Like, is this a joke? Like, is this fake beef or whatever? Like, I don't know what the logic was. I don't know what the game.
Well, with no context, you can't just put something like that out with no context because people were going in thinking that Terrence was a hater, but the whole point of it was a skit where he was a hater.
Absolutely.
When things backfire on you, it's beautiful, isn't it? But I mean, like, Terrence J is hilarious. Lil Rel, Mario Van Peebles comes through and plays.
Mario Van Peebles?
He plays, but he reprises one of his classic roles. That I'm a Breakfast Club exclusive. I'm gonna just say it. Mario Van Peebles comes on and plays the character that he played in New Jack City, and that's all I'm gonna say. Like, we brought this man
and he's not the only one, and he's not even the only one. We have other people, like anybody who, if you love Black culture and you love the things that we all cherish, then we have actually gotten those people to come back and reprise some of those parts. You know, everything from, you know, Menace to Society to The Last Dragon. We've had people coming in to be part of those things. And so for us, it's been like, we can't believe we get to do this stuff. We can't believe we get to make sketches around Shonuff and, you know, sketches around Kane from Menace and stuff like that. Things that, like, you know, in any other context, people would be like, what are y'all doing? But with this show, we have the latitude to really do as Black as possible. And I think that's something that we take very seriously on Sherman Showcase.
Mario Van Peebles in New Jack City, very underrated character. Very underrated character. Had a really good name too that people don't remember. Y'all remember his name in New Jack City?
What's his name?
Is he Stone?
Come on now. Stone, yes.
Stone, yeah.
Very underrated character in that movie.
I want to say more about that, but you'll have to watch the special because we actually talk a little bit about it, whether he's underrated as a character or whether he was getting by on Scotty. We have that conversation on the showcase.
He was the glue. Like, he brought everything together. He was running the operation to take down the CMB. He's the one that put Ice-T and the dude together. Like, he was the guy.
Yeah.
He directed it. He directed that movie. You know, like he Mario's a very talented actor. People don't realize nowadays how talented a director he is. And by the way, I just also want to say that
underrated director too. I think
we got the Roots on the special. We got two people from Vanderpump Rules on the special, not the racist ones. Thank God. Like, I feel like everything about this special we could not have seen coming. We got a sketch about, called Ansem Kente, which, obviously took on a life of its own last week when the Democrats were wearing Kente cloth. And in the video, I thought it would be cool if I had like a Daft Punk something to, to cover up my face. So I went with a gas mask. So we got a video where I'm wearing a mask and you got people in Kente cloth. And people are like, did y'all shoot this last week? Like immediately after, like, Pelosi and Schumer did that. And I'm like, no, man, like this is just us doing us. Like it's crazy how much has come around to Shermans.
So you guys might be psychics, and everything that's happening is your fault.
It is. We just.
I hope not.
We made sure it happened.
Heavy.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to bear, but if it is, go ahead.
No, I said before we go, are y'all ready to get out? Are y'all ready to get out the house yet? Because y'all said y'all don't like, restaurants and stuff, which is weird because we've had like 2 dinners together.
Yeah. We both used to live in New York, and I was just thinking, like, the thing about New York that I actually miss the most is that for me, that is a city where you're not supposed to be in the house. I mean, partly because all the apartments we lived in Manhattan were incredibly small to the point where I thought when I first moved there that the agent I thought he was messing with me. I'm like, this is not an apartment. He's like, this is $2,200 a month. I was like, this is the size of the damn bathroom. So I was like, clearly I am incorrect about this city, but that city really lives and breathes, unfortunately, on the streets. And so LA does not move like that. LA is the opposite. LA is like people leave the house when they're invited somewhere, when they know where they're going. There's not a lot of serendipity. That being said, I'm absolutely ready to get back out there. There's so many summer festivals, there's so many events, and there's just so many chances to really, like, I think human beings are not supposed to be isolated. Human beings are supposed to live in, the situation where we are around each other, not necessarily villages, but we are supposed to have a lot of interaction as part of our, I think, natural, humanity. And so to not be able to do that nowadays, it does feel like it's educational, but I'm very excited for it to come to an end because it's time. We have to wait.
I'm desperate to see my barber. Like, I'm looking at y'all's beards and like they're fantastic. Like, my beard is definitely still the COVID beard. Like, the mustache is looking crazy. Like,
no, mine is trash.
His beard is nice. I just trimmed mine yesterday. I just did my wife is now.
No, you look
nice.
Over here brushing through half the interview, and I'm just.
I know. I feel like I'm back in high school again. There's a cat with like a little brush hitting the.
Chicago. I'm Chicago.
Like, for real, it's like being on the South Side. Yeah, it's like this cat's over here brushing. I love it.
Well, the new season of Shermans Showcase is this Friday. Make sure you check it out. Bashir and Diallo, we appreciate you for checking in.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Be cool.